The sinister secrets exposed on my first night as a crematorium worker. 3 haunting discoveries. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped inside the crematorium, the air heavy with the smell of burnt wood and something else, something unsettling. The flickering fluorescent lights cast long, eerie shadows on the peeling walls, and the silence sat thick around her like a suffocating blanket. She thought her anxiety couldn't intensify, but then she heard it, a low whisper drifting from the empty hall beyond her. "Help us!" She shook her head, convincing herself it was just her imagination. After all, she needed the paycheck. Timmy depended on her. But as she made her way deeper into the building, that whisper clawed at her, wrapping around her like a vine ready to squeeze the breath from her lungs. The first door she passed was ajar. Jenna's instincts screamed at her not to look inside, yet she nodded toward it, almost as though the room itself were beckoning her forward. As she leaned closer, a chill ran down her spine. The air was cold around that door, as if something sat just beyond it waiting. She stepped back, the heavy door creaking in protest, as if it held secrets of its own. How could a crematorium, a place of final rest, seem so alive with dread? She pulled herself together, trying to focus on the tasks required of her. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Just as she began to find her footing, lights flickered and went out, plunging her into darkness. Panic flooded her senses. Her breath quickened, she could hear her pulse echoing in her ears. Heart racing, she felt her way back towards the entrance but stopped short when she heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind her. "Good luck, Jenna." The voice was low and chilling, unlike any she'd ever known, echoing off the walls like it belonged to someone long gone. It hit her then, lurking beneath the surface of this seemingly innocuous job, the faces of those she'd known, local regulars at the coffee shop, friends from the park. Their smiles twisted into shadows over the years, several had simply vanished without a trace, leaving the town cloaked in whispered rumors of a scandal that no one dared speak of. Her unease grew with each sound, each breath she took. The walls pulsed with secrets, and she felt as though they were closing in on her, pressing against her like an omnipresent force of darkness. Just as fear threatened to consume her, she stumbled upon a locked door at the end of a narrow corridor. Her instincts blared that she shouldn't, but curiosity prickled at her. She turned the knob, unlocked. The door creaked open, revealing more chilling shadows and the faint glow of a flickering monitor flashing disturbing images, photos of missing town members stacked indiscriminately. A sickening realization washed over her. What if the very people she'd known were tangled in something far more sinister? Gazing deeper into the darkness, Jenna had only just begun to comprehend the true danger wrapping around her life. The chilling weight of her discovery ran ice through her veins. Would she dare expose the darkness that lurked within her community, or would the ghosts of this town swallow her whole? As the night deepened, she felt slow, calculated eyes upon her, and in that moment, she knew some secrets wanted to stay buried, and some weren't happy to be disturbed. Her gut twisted, she had to find a way out before those secrets crushed everything she held dear. Jenna stood frozen, her breath catching in her throat as the glowing monitor pulsed like a heartbeat, illuminating the photographs of the missing. Each face was familiar, but twisted by time and darkness. Could they all be victims of this burial ground of secrets? Just then, a loud crash echoed from the corridor she'd come from, bringing her back to the present. Terrified, she scanned the shadows, eyes wide and searching. Her heart thundered, drowning out any rational thought. Had something entered the crematorium with her? With no choice, she stepped inside the room, the door creaking shut behind her. The darkness felt suffocating, and the fear seeped into her bones. She forced herself to approach the monitor, but each step felt like stumbling deeper into quicksand. The photographs were stacked haphazardly, as if someone had rifled through them in a panic. Beneath the images lay a manila folder slightly ajar. In a moment of frantic curiosity, she flipped it open. Inside, the papers were covered with notes, obsessive scribbles about the missing people, details of their last known whereabouts, and chilling accounts of unexplainable sights around town. The whispers, she muttered under her breath. They must be connected. The room suddenly felt colder, a presence growing heavier around her. She could almost hear those faded voices, desperate and forlorn. Shutting her eyes tight, she backed away slowly, dread pooling in her stomach as she turned to the door. As she reached for the handle, it swung open without warning, revealing a pair of shadowy figures standing just outside. "More curious than we like, aren't we?" The voice rumbled, low and gravelly, wrapping around her like a noose. One figure stepped closer, and she could discern a face, half hidden in darkness, its features twisted, a smile stretched uncomfortably wide. She stumbled back in horror, crashing into the monitor which flickered erratically. "Who are you?" Jenna gasped, trying to keep her voice steady. "What do you want?" "Want?" The second figure echoed with a chuckle that set her skin crawling. "We're here to help or perhaps hinder." Their eyes glinted, reflecting a predatory hunger. "You shouldn't have found this place, Jenna. Secrets buried here are not meant to be unearthed." She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't respond. Instead, Jenna turned her head for a fleeting second, catching a glimpse of the photographs, faces staring back at her with silent pleas for help. The urge to scream clawed at her throat, but she swallowed hard, the taste of metal flooding her mouth. "You're part of it now," the figure continued, stepping closer, emanating malevolence. "They all are. Once you cross into the territory of the vanished, you become a whisper yourself or worse." Before she could react, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness. Panic surged higher. Jenna could hear their footsteps approaching, can feel the heat of their presence, an unmistakable sense of doom closing in. With a surge of adrenaline, she tossed the door open and bolted down the corridor. The air was electric with danger, every heartbeat loud against the silence. Behind her, she heard laughter mocking, echoing through the empty halls. She had to escape. The darkness followed, a sinister predator. Her heart raced faster than her legs could carry her. As she neared the entrance, a haunting realization struck her. She didn't know if it was truly the crematorium that was alive or if she was becoming part of its dark legacy. Outside, the night air felt like a tainted breath against her skin. But Jenna couldn't afford to slow down. She risked a glance back, and the doorway appeared empty. For now. But a chilling whisper crawled through the shadows, "You can't escape what you've awakened." Jenna's chest tightened with dread. What had she uncovered that night? And how far would they go to silence her? With the weight of the town's secrets on her shoulders, she knew the nightmare was only beginning. Jenna stumbled into the cold embrace of night, her lungs filling with the heavy air as she sprinted away from the crematorium. Each stride felt like a gamble with fate. The laughter from the shadows echoed in her head, taunting, tormenting. Where were the figures now? Were they pursuing her, or had they receded into the darkness, satisfied by the chaos they had caused? She glanced back again, a dizzying mix of terror and confusion swirling in her mind. The building loomed like a giant toothless maw, threatening to swallow her whole. Her heart hammered violently against her ribcage as her feet pounded against the pavement. She needed to think straight. She had to get away. Yet, the image of the monitor and the photographs seeped back into her mind, relentless. Faces twisted in agony, mouths silently screaming for help. Were they still trapped inside that wretched place? Jenna veered off the main path, desperate for somewhere to hide. The surrounding woods loomed ahead, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Finding refuge among the trees felt better than facing the unknown horrors behind her. She plunged into the underbrush, breathing heavily, trying to still her racing heart. The cool earth was a welcome cushion beneath her feet, slowing her frantic pace. She crouched low, pressing herself against the rough bark of a tree, feeling the dampness seep through her clothes. Without a sound, she listened intently. The distant laughter faded into the whispering wind. But that was when she heard a rustling sound. A twig snapped. Someone or something was just beyond the veil of darkness. The fear returned, ice-cold and throbbing. With each heartbeat, the noise grew closer. She held her breath, straining to catch any other sound. Jenna. The voice floated through the trees, ethereal and haunting. Fear clawed at her throat. Leave me alone. She barely managed to whisper, the words barely enough to escape her lips. Jenna, the voice sang, dripping with mockery. We know you're here. This time, she couldn't suppress her frantic breathing, her chest heaving with panic. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to block it out, but it was too late. The darkness wrapped around her, dense and suffocating, and she felt the stirring of something sinister lurking in the depths. Suddenly, a hand slammed against the tree beside her. Jenna jolted, her eyes widening in terror. In that moment of stark realization, she recognized the silhouette. It was the same twisted figure she'd seen in the crematorium. Fear prickled at her skin, sending shockwaves of dread through her body. Let us show you what you've awakened, the voice hissed, low and demonic. With a burst of adrenaline, Jenna shoved herself off the tree, darting deeper into the trees. Branches clawed at her arms, tearing her clothes, but pain was the last thing on her mind. She ran until her legs screamed, until her lungs burned. She ran until the world around her blurred into a chilling cacophony of shadows. Suddenly, she stumbled into a clearing, moonlight spilling across the ground in silvery pools. At the center stood an abandoned shack, its windowpanes shattered, draped in shadows. A faint glow emerged from within, pulsating like a heartbeat in the dark. Was it another trap? Or a beacon of hope? Jenna hesitated, her instincts warring with her curiosity. However, she was driven by the need to understand, to solve the puzzle that tangled her mind. She crept toward the shack, her breath trembling in her throat. As she approached, the air turned heavy, thick with anticipation. Just before she reached the door, she halted. A voice, barely above a whisper, slithered through the air. You're not alone anymore. There, waiting in that moment, Jenna's blood ran cold. Behind her, the shadows twisted and writhed, and with horror, she realized the darkness was not just chasing her, it was gathering. Just like the missing, with no time left, she ripped the door open and stepped inside. But what awaited her was a truth she never expected, lurking just behind the veil of her greatest fear. What awaited her in the darkness? And would she become just another whisper in the night, or was there a way to turn the tides? Inside the shack, the air hung thick and cloying, reeking of decay and forgotten memories. Jenna squinted against the dim glow, her pulse racing. She took a cautious step forward, her breath hitching as the floor creaked beneath her weight. This place was a refuge, but the feeling of safety quickly evaporated. The glow pulsed from the far corner, illuminating a wall plastered with photographs. Jenna's heart sank. There they were, faces she recognized from the monitor, twisted in anguish, their suffering trapped in sepia tones. They stared back at her with hollow eyes, frozen in a moment that felt all too real. She staggered back, her mind racing to comprehend how these images found their way here. Welcome, Jenna, hissed a voice from the shadows, smoother than silk yet filled with venom. Jenna spun, her breath catching in her throat. The silhouette stepped into the light, a figure shrouded in darkness, but unmistakably human. His smile was wide, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp against his pale, gaunt face. Who are you? She managed to choke out, raw panic clawing at her throat. Someone who knows what you've done. His eyes glittered with malice, holding her gaze as if pulling her into a hypnotic trap. You awakened them with your meddling. They'll never let you go. Her body shook, nausea swirling in the pit of her stomach. I didn't mean to. I tried to help them. The echo of her own voice sounded absurd amid the dizzying silence. Help? The figure laughed, a chilling sound that slithered through the air. "You're too late for that. Help would mean freeing them. Instead, you walked right into their eternal prison." He pointed towards the glowing photographs, and Jenna's heart raced as she realized the truth. The faces were not merely remnants, they were alive, their colors fading like a dying flame. As if on cue, the shack's walls began to tremble, shuddering as if alive. The shadows deepened, reaching out as if they had a sentience of their own. Jenna backed away instinctively, but there was nowhere to run. An invisible weight pressed down on her, tightening around her chest. "The deeper you look, the more you become one of them," the shadowed figure taunted. She darted to the door, but it slammed shut in an instant, a heavy thud rebounding around her. The remnants of the past now clawed their way into the present. A muffled wail echoed from the walls, the voices of the trapped filling her ears. They were begging, crying for freedom, for justice, a chorus of unyielding despair. "No! I can't!" Jenna screamed, raising her hands to block the cacophony of tortured souls. She was losing grip, reality unraveling around her. "Stay," he commanded, stepping forward until the glow enveloped him, becoming one with the shadows. "Join us." Jenna's mind screamed for clarity, but the chaos drowned it out. The glow intensified, casting even darker shadows, and she felt herself being drawn toward the light, her willpower slipping away. "No!" She cried one last time, and with all the strength she could summon, she lunged at the door. It burst open, the sudden rush of cold air almost knocking her back. She stumbled outside, gasping for breath, her heart pounding like a war drum. But as she turned, the glow dimmed behind her, and she knew the truth: no matter how far she ran, the shadows would always follow. The laughter returned, a low, mocking sound that bubbled up from the depths of the woods, mingling with the dying light. Jenna turned and fled, feeling eyes upon her, watching her blunder through the dark. What other secrets hid within the shack, and what price would she have to pay to break free from these vengeful spirits? The deeper she ventured into the woods, the louder the whispers grew, a chilling reminder that the hunt was far from over. Jenna stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at her skin as she ran deeper into the woods. The air grew thick and oppressive, every sound heightening her sense of dread: rustling leaves, distant howls, whispers that seemed to wrap around her like a vice. She didn't know where to go, only that she had to escape. Panic coursed through her veins, painting the world in shades of terror. She could still hear that man's chilling laughter echoing in the darkness behind her, urging her to fall into despair. "You can't run forever," it seemed to whisper, taunting her, reminding her of the faces in those photographs, the faces of the anguished souls trapped in sorrow. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Her heart stopped. She turned sharply, only to find a deer frozen in place, its large, dark eyes reflecting the dim light. It stood so still, and for a fleeting moment, she thought it might show her the path home. But it dashed away, vanishing into the shadows, leaving her isolated once more. The forest loomed ahead, a labyrinth of twisted trees and murky ground. Each step further from the shack only escalated her heart rate. It was like an invisible thread was tugging at her, urging her back, whispering sweet promises of safety just to lure her back into the darkness. Jenna stumbled upon a clearing. The moon hung low in the sky, casting ominous shadows against the trees. She took a moment to breathe, to gather her thoughts, but in the silence she felt a different presence looming. Faint whispers coiled around her ankles, curling up her legs, chilling her to the bone. "You can free us," they beckoned softly, each voice unrecognizable yet familiar. Was it the wind or the spirits? She leaned in closer, straining to hear, but the words slipped away like grains of sand. "No!" she shouted, pressing her palms against her ears, trying to block them out. The memories of the shack flashed before her eyes, vivid and haunting. She could still feel the shadows creeping up around her, enthralling and intoxicating. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette upon a silhouette, and it was not the same man from the shack. This one had arms stretched wide, palms open, waiting to embrace her like a friend. Jenna's body tensed. "No. Join us, Jenna," it urged in sweet tones, a disembodied echo that wrapped around her heart. Her breath quickened. She couldn't tell if the figure was alluring or terrifying. The intelligence behind those eyes, whatever it was, trapped her in a moment of paralyzing fear. She wanted to scream. She wanted to turn and run, but her body felt anchored to the earth. The growth of shadows spiraled toward her like creeping vines, threatening to engulf her in their dark embrace. "Fate hasn't decided yet," the voice continued, merging with the gust of wind. "Stay, and we might free you from your guilt." With a sudden rush of adrenaline, she turned, breaking the invisible bond that held her. She sprinted away, the whispers tearing at her back, but the shadows were gaining ground. Tendrils of darkness whipped past her, some grabbing at her sleeves, pulling her down. "Let me go!" Jenna cried, nearly tripping on a root protruding from the ground. She fought her way through, pushing past fear, determined to escape this hell. But something tugged at her heart, an inkling of something that wanted to know more, to delve deeper into the pain of those lost souls. The shadows thinned slightly ahead, and she caught a glimpse of light filtering through the trees. It beckoned, promising escape. But as she sprinted toward it, she fell. The ground gave way beneath her, and she tumbled into a hidden pit, the world dark and heavy around her. When she landed, the voices grew louder, more insistent, drowning out her thoughts. "You will understand, soon." As Jenna lay in the dirt, the weight of despair pressing down, she realized that knowing the truth might come at an excruciating cost. The light above flickered, casting a sickly glow down into her prison, and she felt the shadows close in around her as a realization dawned. What if the shack wasn't where it all ended? What if this was just the beginning of something far worse? The darkness hums with an invitation she could neither resist nor refuse. Jenna blinked, the flickering light above her teasing her from the pit's edge. Shadows swirled around her, crawling over her skin like restless spirits wanting to drown her in their sorrow. The whispers intensified, warping into a cacophony that twisted her thoughts, pulling her deeper into a pit of despair. "Who are you?" she shouted into the void, her voice trembling. The echo of her own words mocked her retreating bravery, swallowed by the darkness. Desperation washed over her, fueling the panic that came in quickly staccato breaths. The ground felt damp and cold, pulling at her like it wanted to keep her here forever. "Decide, Jenna," the voices began to sing, sweet and malevolent. "Will you join us, or will you fight?" The weight of their words pressed down on her. She could feel the darkness wrapping tighter, as if gauging her resolve. "What do you want from me?" she cried, heart hammering in her chest. "Know our pain, embrace our suffering, set us free." They hissed, their ethereal fingers tickling her memories, curling around her guilt like vines, tendrils of regret snaking through her mind. Images flashed before her, gnarled hands grasping for salvation, unseeing eyes filled with anguish, faces she knew too well. Each one haunted her, shadows of the past she was desperate to forget, but in the swirling chaos of her fear, a memory surfaced, snippets from the shack. A figure looming, his laughter slicing through every moment of her torment. She could hear his voice now. "You're one of us, Jenna. You always have been." "No." She clamped down on her memories, gripping at the dirt beneath her fingers. "I am not." The more she shouted, the more the shadows pressed in. They tightened, squeezing, suffocating, and then the ground shifted. Something moved beneath her. A muted rustle, almost like a sigh. Jenna froze, heart racing as she felt a presence approach. The darkness rippled, and from it, a form began to rise. An outline took shape, humanoid yet indistinct. "Why run from your truth?" It spoke in a voice that dripped with honey and malice. "We were all wronged. Together, we can right the past." She backed away, pressing against the jagged wall of her confinement. "What are you?" "Your answers, Jenna," it cooed, its edges blurring like smoke dissipating into the night. "You only need to listen." We can show you the others are close, and they wish to know as well. Fear coiled in her stomach. The others? And they're waiting for you. The shadows flickered violently, churning with anticipation. They know what you did. Her chest clenched. The truth hung heavy in the air, sweat trickled down her spine. She tried to control her breathing, but anxiety crashed over her, waves threatening to pull her under. They were innocent. Jenna yelled, anger boiling within her. And I was only human, the figure interrupted, voice like ice. Do you think that excuses the choices you made? It doesn't. We have all suffered. Suddenly, an overwhelming rush of sorrow coursed through her. She felt their pain, a collective grief that seemed to seep into her very soul. Images blended into one another, the faces in the photographs flashed like an old film reel, blurring throughout time. Those trapped souls, pleading for recognition. Join us, Jenna, the creature whispered, extending its fingers, tendrils reaching out, wrapping around her heart. Embrace it. You will never be alone again. She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head vigorously, heart pounding so hard it felt like it could burst. You're lying. This isn't freedom. But the whispers grew louder, ascending into a chorus that drowned her protests. They promised power, understanding, and the end of her guilt. Jenna could feel herself teetering on the edge of a treacherous precipice, the truth beckoning her closer and closer to the dark abyss. Would she really let the shadows consume her? As she gazed into the void, the glowing light flickered even more, illuminating something behind the figure, something large and unnatural shifting beneath the ground. What if this wasn't just a pit? What if it was a gateway? The darkness hungered, the shadows pulsed. She was about to discover the truth, for better or worse. And before she could comprehend the reality of her situation, the ground opened wider. Everything fell away. Jenna gripped the edge, heart racing with fear. What lay in the depths below? What awaited her in the darkness? Time stood still. The silence screamed in her ears, stinging with the promise of revelation. Could she truly face her demons, or would they consume her first? The ground shuddered beneath her. Jenna clung tighter, muscles straining as she fought against gravity pulling her closer to the dark void. The whispers escalated, swirling around her head like a tempest. They echoed her own fears back at her, twisting them into a nightmarish serenade. Let go, they sang, their voices cold and inviting, like a lover's embrace. You'll find peace. You'll find them. She shook her head, the shadows clawing at her resolve, but the truth was already festering in her mind. The faces. The cries. Each memory pushed at the edges of her consciousness, like ghosts trying to claw their way to the surface. Would they find her there, amidst the broken past waiting to be reconciled? A shudder ran through her spine as the very ground beneath her began to pulse. It felt alive. She could feel something crawling closer, watching her. What are you? Jenna whispered, her voice trembling, barely louder than a gasp. The figure before her morphed, shadows thickening until it was almost solid. We are the forgotten, the lost, craving your acknowledgement, it whispered, that same honeyed malice drenching every word. Embrace your role in our suffering. You must remember, Jenna. No. She screamed, desperate and defiant. But what if it was the ultimate truth? It swirled in circles, teasing her sanity, pushing her toward something she fought so hard to resist. The light flickered again, brighter this time, casting strange silhouettes against the jagged walls. For a brief moment, she thought she saw other faces peering out from the shadows, eyes brimming with dark truths and unyielding sorrow. Join us or lose yourself forever, the figure urged, reaching out, its fingers distorting the light around them, shifting between form and darkness. Jenna felt their tugging, pulling at her heart. Then it happened. She lost her grip. Her body plunged into the abyss, the sensation was instantaneous. She fell through a shroud of blackness, and just as quickly, she was caught in a grip of icy water. The shock of it stole her breath. It swirled around her, drowning her thoughts in the murky depths. As she flailed, trying to push her way back up toward the light, Jenna realized with horror that this was not merely a fall. It was a descent into something far worse, a reckoning. Above her, she saw bubbles rising, bursting against a surface she could no longer reach. Panic sang in her veins, drowning out the whispers, but a new fear bloomed in her chest. What awaited her down here? Vision struck her then, unbidden. The faces of those long departed, their mouths moving, silent screams echoing all around her. They reached for her, beckoning with outstretched hands. Each one was a reminder of her past, a sinister tapestry of grief she thought she could outrun. Accept us. They clamored, their voices weaving in and out like the currents of cold water. Set us free. Jenna kicked against the weight, desperation coursing through her limbs. She couldn't succumb to their pull. Not now, not ever. But they were ever present, surrounding her, invading her mind. You were never innocent, Jenna, a voice hissed, deep and grating. You turned your back on the truth. And now you must pay the toll. It tightened around her, wrapping suffocating chains of remorse around her heart. She gasped, sucking in the fading air as the depths closed in, more compressing than ever. The shadows stirred, swirling in a violent dance of darkness. If she couldn't escape, could she face them? The water began to fill her lungs, and as consciousness teetered on the edge of oblivion, a panic surged through her. Visions turned into memories, truths she couldn't escape. What had she really done? In those final moments, a single thought broke through: would she turn back or face the darkness head-on? And then the water parted, something between the fluid darkness and flickering light began to take shape, an outline more monstrous than the shadows that licked at her. A creature, a form cloaked in desperation, calling out to her. Jenna, come to us. What was it? What awaited her on the other side? She was running out of time to decide. The fear inside her screamed for survival, yet a part of her hungered for the truth. Could she face the thing that haunted her dreams, the horror of her reality, or would she drown beneath the weight of her choices? Terror twisted in her gut, gnawing at her resolve as darkness wrapped around her, suffocating her sanity. But beneath that, a whisper broke through, faint, fragile, almost a promise. Find us before it's too late. With a desperate kick, she fought once more, seeking light, seeking truth, unsure of what she would uncover. But she had to know. The cold water surged around Jenna, each surge growing more tumultuous, dragging her deeper into an endless swirl. She felt her body brush against something, a figure, a chilling silhouette that stirred her from the depths of panic. Jenna, it crooned again, laced with sorrow. The promise of answers tinged with grief. She hesitated. No. This was a trap, a whispering call to those she had lost. But desperation clawed at her heart. She needed to believe that the truth could set her free, or at least help her escape this wretched place. Fueled by urgent fear, she swam toward the figure, fighting the currents pulling her back. With every stroke, the memories rushed in clearer. The faces of her loved ones twisted in anguish, their eyes pleading, their lips parting silently as she strained for breath. Show them to me. Jenna's voice fractured through the water, buoyed by raw determination. I want the truth. Suddenly, the water began to chill. It felt as if the depths accelerated, dragging her down, deeper than she intended. The creature's outline sharpened, morphing into a ghastly visage, a grotesque mockery of those she once cherished, their features blurring painfully. Jenna, they echoed. No! She screamed, twisting away, her throat burning. She struck out blindly, feeling desperation wash over her. The voices grew louder, forcing her to confront every regret. But in that cacophony, a chilling clarity emerged. Could they truly be lost to her? The weight of guilt surged inside her like a tidal wave. The faces were a mirror to her own fears, secrets buried, truths she was too afraid to face. Her mind raced as she clawed upward toward a flicker of light above. Darkness lunged around her, but she pushed harder, teeth gritted, determined to break free. The moment her hand broke the surface, she gasped, air filling her lungs with jagged pleasure. She rolled onto her back, floating for a moment in the riptide of her thoughts, heart racing, throat aching. But the water was no longer murky, the glimmers of dark and light danced together, revealing silhouettes on the banks, familiar figures standing in shadow. "Help us," they whispered, their voices chilling her blood. Jenna's heart sank. They weren't free, they were still trapped, tethered by her memories. Fought against them desperately, she forced the raw truth back into the recesses of her mind to quell the growing tide of horror around her. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her, pulling her back toward the water's depths. Panic surged once more. No, she couldn't go back. Not now. She looked above at the faces, each one twisted with sorrow, frustration, and regret. Their disembodied hands reached out, wrapping around her consciousness like vines, dragging her down again. "What do you want?" she cried, but their responses were drowned in a wave of silence, a final heartbeat of longing. Then, like a sharp memory emerging, a truth began to unfold. They were not there to punish her. They were bound to her, survivor and lost intertwined. A pulse of revelation coursed through her veins. It was no longer just about escape, it was a battle for redemption, for acceptance. "Set us free," came the whispers, urgent and pleading. "Remember who we all are." With a fierce will, Jenna centered herself amidst the mounting chaos. Her hand reached forward, touching the water's surface gently as memories flashed, flashes of laughter, moments she had buried alive, secrets she thought were dead. Each recollection shone brightly, illuminating the darkness. She could feel them, not lost anymore, but woven into the very fabric of her being. "I choose to remember," she yelled against the roar of whispers, finding strength within her own voice. And just like that, the current shifted. The faces began to morph, no longer twisted, they softened, revealing the warmth they once held. They hovered close, no longer chains, but lifelines. "Find us," they urged once more with newly found freedom, "and we'll find you." But from the depths, an echo of darker whispers boiled up, intertwining the joyous cries with chilling promises. Another presence lingered, something older and more sinister. One that would not relinquish its grip so easily. A deeper shadow unfurled within the water, whispering each of her darkest fears. "You think you can escape us?" it hissed, reverberating through her bones. "You must face all of us." Fear gripped her anew. Was she ready to confront the horrors that haunted her? The surface quaked, the tension swelled. She could not turn back now. Not when the storm was brewing, ready to unleash the darkness she thought she'd just begun to escape. "Jenna, face the truth," the darker figure beckoned, unrelenting, "or drown in the weight of your secrets." The battle was far from over. What awaited her in the depths as she remained tethered between light and shadow? Her breath came in quick gasps, each heartbeat pulsing against the icy grip of the water. The pull grew stronger, as if the very essence of the depths yearned to pull her back into eternal silence. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming distorted shapes, creeping closer, and Jenna could feel their malicious intent wrapping around her. "Face the truth," the echoing voice commanded, dragging through her thoughts like a serrated knife. "You think you can hide?" Clenching her fists, Jenna felt fury rise within her. She wasn't just a victim, she had fought her way back to the surface once. She could do it again. The light above looked so inviting, but the whispers danced a sinister waltz around her, teasing and taunting. Memories flickered in her mind, moments she had actively chosen to forget, moments that held pain and regret. She focused hard on the faces, recalling the laughter they once shared, moments nestled in the corners of her heart. With each remembrance, she pushed against the dark force pulling her under. "I will not forget," she shouted, anger igniting her strength, battling the shadows constricting her. Suddenly, the current shifted violently, pushing her back toward the terrifying darkness. The shadows sneered and twisted, and Jenna could make out more figures, lost souls grasping at the water's surface, their faces worn with sorrow, frozen in longing. Time to confront your demons. Another voice licked at her ears, vile and sharp. Her stomach dropped, the weight of their despair pressed upon her. You cannot drown your past, Jenna. We are part of you. No. She screamed, trying to block the images swelling inside her. An overwhelming wave of guilt surged as memories she had buried came crashing back, silenced voices begging for her attention, shadows of what could have been clawing at her mind. She felt as if she was standing on the precipice of something dark and profound, teetering dangerously close to falling. In a moment of defiance, she plunged her hand into the water, trembling fingers rippling across the surface. If you're all part of me, then I will own these truths. The water stirred violently, rippling in response to her declaration. The shadows recoiled, but only momentarily, growing back with renewed rage, swirling and churning. Jenna felt the pull of their despair drag her towards the abyss, the depths intent on reclaiming what it once held. Jenna! They cried, a cacophony of voices merged into agony. Don't you remember our bond? The flicker of light overhead shimmered, but a thick veil of darkness obscured it. She could almost see the outlines of her loved ones, faces contorted with grief instead of joy. But they were more than memories now, they were chains, binding her to a truth that clawed at her sanity. Release us, and you will be free. The shadows hissed, their grip becoming suffocating, the water darkening as self-loathing surged within her. No. I want to let you take me. Jenna summoned every ounce of courage, every shred of the love she held for those lost. She tugged at the memories, pulling forth moments she had locked away in fear. Each thought a talisman against the darkness, and then, just as a dull pulse beat through the water deep, throbbing, a sudden understanding dawned. I see you now. She shouted, her voice cracking but laced with power. You are not my chains, but my path to healing. The water erupted with ferocity. Visions exploded in vivid colors, their wails fading into sheer urgency. Jenna felt the release surge through her, a wave of warmth washing over the cold terror. But the dark presence refused to yield. It roared back, rising with haunting pitch, bursting from the depths as an immense shadow. You dare challenge me? It threatened, a black maw opening wide, emanating an ancient hunger. Jenna gasped, jolted anew by sheer horror. Confront your darkest fears, or succumb to them. The tumultuous water roared, like a storm unleashed from the depths of hell. Jenna's heart raced faster, it drummed in her ears, drowning out the shadow's whispers as she struggled against the tide, bracing herself. For the encounter that lay ahead, gritting her teeth, she prepared herself for the confrontation she was loath to face. As the shadow surged closer, Jenna could feel its chill wrap around her heart. What grotesque truths lay hidden behind that dark veil, waiting to be uncovered, ready to swallow her whole? The battle for her very soul had just begun. Jenna gasped and thrashed in the icy water, the depths swirling around her like a dark whirlpool. Shadows clawed at her, whispering, beckoning her to succumb, but she fought back, determined. I will not be your prisoner. She screamed, the words echoing like cannon fire in her mind. Suddenly, bursts of warmth radiated through her, igniting memories she'd long buried. Her mother's laughter, her brother's teasing smile, and the shimmer of sunlight on the lake where they all splashed together. The dark figures filled with despair began to shift, faces she thought lost transformed into figures of joy. Remember us. They cried, imploring her. We are not just shadows. The surge of light illuminated the water briefly, revealing their true forms, no longer suffering prisoners, but companions entwined in the very fabric of her existence. Jenna felt it then, the connection she feared. She inhaled deeply, flames of determination igniting within her. I choose to remember. I choose to honor you, every single one of you. The water bubbled fiercely, shadows recoiling from her declaration, uncertain. The deeper darkness that had loomed began to waver, hesitating at the genuine emotion radiating from her heart. You are not my chains, you are my strength, she declared, each word lifting a weight off her shoulders. The monstrous shadow lunged toward her, its voice slithering into her thoughts, cold and vicious. You are nothing without your pain. You think they will save you? The words ripped into her, but they were laced with fear of her awakening. No. Jenna fought back, her voice rising like a battle cry. I am everything because of you. Each sacrifice, each memory is a part of me, driving me forward. I refuse to let you quench the light of our truth. With a sweeping gesture, she summoned the memories, envisioning freedom for those lost souls. Light burst from her, enveloping her body, radiating outward like a beacon. It crested higher, and as it did, Jenna felt the very water around her begin to shift, the once collected shadows writhed, twisting and turning, becoming less coherent. No, no, you can't. The shadow screamed, its form trembling before her. Fear paralyzed it. Her warmth, her strength, was unraveling it like thread. Still, the darkness lunged forward, ready to swallow her whole. You will regret this, Jenna. I will not. She shouted. You are nothing but a deception. With every ounce of resolve, she drew tighter the threads of connection, the remembrance of laughter and love. Those faces transcending pain filled her spirit until she felt she could rise above it all. The darkness recoiled as brightness surged, enveloping the water around her completely. Jenna jerked upward, the surface racing toward her. She closed her eyes and punched through, breaking up into the air with a gasp, spluttering against the weight of reality. As she resurfaced, the shadows shrieked and hissed, fading into the depths, losing their hold, dissipating like mist under the sun. The air felt alive with her victory, the sun's warmth kissing her cheeks as she breathed in. I set you free. She whispered, tears streaming down her face. The bank of the water was littered with remnants of dark memories, and Jenna knew they were only echoes now. Familiar faces greeted her from the shadows, and, in that moment, she finally recognized them. No pain, just love. Each ghastly figure now materialized into beloved souls, free from the chains of anguish. Thank you, they murmured in unison, their eyes glowing, washing over her with warmth and light. They coalesced into a pulsating aura of love. Jenna's family, friends, lost members from the past, finally at peace. In their release, she, too, felt lightened. Jenna leaned back against the soft earth, surrounded by the remnants of her battles. She would carry them with her, woven into her spirit, reminding her of the weight of truth and the importance of facing one's demons. The world around her regained its color, the sun twinkling off the water like a promise, soft, inviting, and full of life. She closed her eyes and inhaled deep. Feeling free, feeling powerful. The whispers of her past would no longer haunt her. They'd become guides, gentle nudges toward reconciliation, empowerment. As Jenna stood up and began her walk away from the chaos, she vowed to share their stories. To bring light to the shadows and drown the darkness with hope. The cemetery of forgotten secrets would no longer shackle the town, but she knew the shadows could always lurk. And maybe, just maybe, she'd stay vigilant, ready to confront if they returned. So, with each step forward, Jenna held those memories tight, reminding herself that only by embracing them could she truly be free. Now, this is where you come in. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the word. You have to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support because true fans understand the importance of being part of this community.